So on to our program. I'd like to open us in prayer if you'll join me. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful snowy day and for the opportunity to learn from each other as we listen, ask questions, think about strategies that will help us in our lives, our professions, and in our businesses. Thank you for the college and the good work that we do and the opportunity to share with our community. Amen. So in lieu of a bio, I would like to tell a quick story about our moderator, Dr. Dina Porterfield, our president of Roberts Wesleyan College and Northeastern Seminary. So if you don't know, especially if this is your first time here, Dina moved here from California about 4 years ago to take this position. And what's always impressed me most, like I'm a Rochester girl. I grew up here. I'm a 25-year alum of the college. If you do the math, you'll know how old I am. But one of the things that impressed me the most, one of the first things she did was she read the history of our founders, B.T. Roberts and his wife Ellen. And I've been working here literally a month before her. That's when I came on staff. And I've had a front row seat of watching how she leads the college and the seminary. And what's impressive is how she's managed to lead with fresh new vision, but always honored our 151-year history. I've even been in meetings where she's wondered aloud, what would BT do in this situation? How would he handle this? And to me, that's impressive. Dina's made some great changes. She's leading us into a new era, but she's doing it with respect and honoring our past. And given that mindset, I thought she would be a perfect moderator for today's topic. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dina Porterfield.
Well, good morning. I don't want to take a lot of time before we jump into our topic because we want to make the most of this amazing panel that we have today.
Oh boy.
As I know I'm setting you up right there.
Oh boy.
I know many of you have worked with these companies in different ways or know these individuals personally, and you know what an honor and privilege it is for us to have each of them here today. What an exciting morning for this leadership breakfast. So I want to start by just letting you know that as I moderate, we'll be going for a period of time till about 8:40, 8:45-ish, and then we'll go into some questions. And I want to just point out that there's a hashtag on Twitter, and if you're on Twitter, this will work great. If you're not, lean over to somebody that's on Twitter, and they can help you out. The hashtag is Roberts Leaders. And what we're going to be doing then when we open it up for questions is we will be looking through. I have my cell phone here, so it won't be that I'm distracted trying to figure out something else going on in the world. But I will be looking to see what those questions are, and that's how we'll facilitate the open question and answer time with the panel. So I just want to let you know that. Roberts Leaders, you can also tweet out Roberts Leaders quotes that they say. These are good things, and things that are happening throughout the session. So I encourage you to do that. We love that. We'll retweet those through our Roberts site as well. So let me start by first telling you a little bit about each panelist, and then we'll jump right in. So Ray Isaac is president and co-owner of Isaac Heating and Air Conditioning Incorporated. Ray and his three brothers are partners in the business started by their grandfather, George Isaac, in 1945. And they've grown the organization to one of the premier employers in New York State. Ray's charitable work includes service as president of the Small Business Council of Greater Rochester, chairman of the Heritage Christian Services Foundation Board, vice president of membership at Rochester Rotary, and a member of the St. John Fisher Dean's Advisory Council, among others. Focusing on culture and leadership, Ray has led a transformation at Isaac where safety, uncompromising integrity, continuous improvement, fun, family, and community are the core to everything that they do. Colleen and John Baker are here, and they are the owners of the iconic Cheesy Eddie's. And I just again want to say, if you haven't opened your centerpiece, you might want to do that. That is from Cheesy Eddie's. Colleen comes to the bakery from the fields of business administration, training, and education, while John spent much of his career in sales with Wallace and Merkel Donahue, where John continued to work for over 10 years as they grew the bakery. It took 3 rounds of negotiations beginning in 1991 for Cheesy Eddie's to become the Baker's Bakery. Now, 15 years in, the growth continues to challenge them daily, but they are focused on managing the growth in a way that continues to improve the work environment for their amazing team while providing the very best products and services that they can for their customers. And you'll know what those products are as you take a bite. And then our final panelist is Kip Palmer. He's the CEO of the Palmer family of companies, which was founded in 1850. He is a native of Rochester and holds a Bachelor of Arts from Wittenberg University. After college, he joined his father in running and expanding Palmer Food Services and adding the Syracuse-based G&C Food Distributors. In addition to serving as CEO, Kip contributes his time and resources to a variety of charitable and business organizations, including serving as the chair of the board at Roberts Wesleyan College and Northeastern Seminary. So those are our panelists. Let's give them a hand, because that already is impressive. So what I'm going to do is, the first question we're going to ask to every panelist, and then I'm going to direct questions to each of you. Of course, if you want to insert after somebody's answered, that's fine. I don't want to keep you from that. But we'll try to kind of keep the conversation going in some different areas. So the first question that I'd like each of you to answer is, all of you own successful, iconic Rochester companies. I mean, that's clear by the people that are in this room that came to hear you speak. Can you talk a little bit about the foundation you think that has made your company so successful? Ray, you want to start us
off?
out?
Right?
Right.
That's trying to sum up 73 years into a statement. It's the lessons learned. My dad was very instrumental in making sure that the third generation was going to be successful. You know what the success rate of third generation business is? 4%. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and I got a lot of those in some of my talking points, but a lot of what we do now are the values that were carried forward by my father from my grandfather. And really the reason for that third generation 4% success rate is that the third generation becomes too far removed from what the principles and the values and the priorities that started the company and made it successful were. And I talk about 6 E's in our business. We educate, we engage, we empower, we enable, and then we execute and we enjoy. And those are the 6 E's. There's one evil E though that'll kill all those, and it's called entitlement. And we never let that creep in. And my dad made sure that when my dad was talking about the things that we do now of 24-hour service, my grandfather back in 1962 had 24-hour service on the side of his truck. And that was one guy in a truck. 24-hour service meant when somebody called, he told him to put a pot of coffee on, it'll be over in an hour. And we know those stories. And if you're in a family business, you cannot forget. Everybody wants to become professional, they want to become polished, they want to become very structured, and they lose touch with those principles that allowed the company to be successful. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm a very fortunate individual. I'm not an entrepreneur. I try to take an entrepreneurial mentality to our business, but I'm living off the hard work of put a pot of coffee on and I'll be over in an hour. And we don't forget that. My brothers and I are all very in tune with that. All my 3 brothers all work in the field. They are not VPs. They're not managers. My brother David gets his performance appraisal from a person that's been with us for 13 years, who's 33 years old, and is our service manager. It's kind of interesting watching that, but those are the philosophies, and we're going to talk about that a little bit when we talk about equity businesses versus lifestyle businesses. But don't forget the stories. I mean, those are the things. If you're the originator or the second generation, help that third generation, fourth generation. I'm sure Kip and the others up here have heard the stories or told the stories. If you're the first generation, I mean, it's paramount for you to make sure that those things carry forward.
So we're unique in that we're kind of first generation, even though the business has been around for 41, 42 years. But we fell in love with that I think it was 1989, 1990, and did negotiate over 12 years, 3 different times before Eddie's sister, who actually owned the business at that time, finally relinquished and let us come in and take over the reins at Cheesy Eddie's. So her brother Eddie had started in '76 and did extremely well, and then got out of it rather quickly. By 1980, he was gone, and she took over and moved it to the South Wedge where it is today. And a great area that we love being there, and great neighbors, great neighborhood association. But our 3 principles that we try and be the foundation, the pillars of what we do, is, of course, great products. I mean, if you've got food, you got to have something. It's got to stand apart in its niche, and that's kind of what brought me to Cheesy Eddie's, was because I looked at a couple dozen different opportunities. A lot of them were food related, but nothing had the power, the draw that Cheesy Eddie's did with the brand that I had already created and the opportunities that were there. And so I felt like it was worth pursuing, even though I had no reason to be there. I was a furniture salesperson with not a lot of training, but I felt like it was something I could really, and I always wanted to throw myself behind something I could really believe in, and I really believe in what we're doing and how well we do it. So it's great products. We want it to be a great place for our folks to work. We want them to enjoy coming to work. They work hard. We've got an amazing team, but they do a hard job, so we are thankful for them, and we want to make sure we're serving them as they serve us and help their teammates. And then the other thing is great customer service. And I know it sounds like a pat answer, but really, we want to go outside the box, and we do. We've got some pretty cool stories that I could share with you that would explain that to you, but we really think that customer service really, setting ourselves apart, making that experience when people come in. 2/3 of what we do is in our cafe. People come in and buy cakes for birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, housewarmings, whatever it is. We want that experience to be awesome, so we always have great people up front ready to serve, great samples ready to go, and it's hopefully a great experience when people come in. Because I tell you, we realize when people come to the South Wedge, it's not on their way a lot of times to where they're going. They got to come out of their way to come see us, and so I have a heightened sense of appreciation for that they make their way down to see us and have to drive by a few other bakeries to get there as well. And so we're really grateful for that, and I try and let our team remember that when they are serving the people.
You said that well.
You always have something to add, but not this time.
Maybe later.
All right. Okay.
I would say success is relative. I would say that one of the reasons that we're successful as a company is really the values that our business is built on, which is really biblical values. And Ray talked about his dad. I mean, my father, I think about him every day. He set, and my mom, of course, and they set wonderful examples for me. My father always taught me that every relationship was significant. Whether that relationship was with an associate, we don't call our people we work with employees, we call them associates. Whether it's associates, whether it's vendors, whether it's clients, customers in the store, every relationship was significant, and my father treated everyone that way. Everyone was important to my dad, and we try to continue that. Every relationship is significant to us, regardless of the size of the relationship or the nature of the relationship. They're all important to us. The second thing is that we don't take our success for granted. I think because we're 168 years old doesn't mean that we deserve your business. That just means we're old. We have to prove ourselves every day and every relationship that we bring value to it. Sometimes it's emotional value. Sometimes it's just a great steak. But at the end of the day, it's not taking that for granted and having a sense of responsibility for every single one of those relationships to perform them properly. and to be there for them and to have their back, to really care about clients and really care about each other. That's what I think really has helped make our business successful.
Thank you. So Ray?
Can I just add something
Oh,
really
yes.
quick, Dean? What you hit on, it's kind of funny because I always say, like, we're 42 years old. I say to a lot of times to our customers, like, we're older than you are, you know? And now I feel so young. Like, wow, we're just getting rolling here. But like you hit on something that John talked about, the triangle that we work with. Best, we want the best, highest quality we can possibly put out. We want the best work environment we can have. And then that third piece, that customer service, we never really look at it like customer service. And it sparked when you said every relationship is valuable. We lean on a hospitality model. So everyone who's coming into our business, whether they're a bride looking for her wedding cake or somebody who wants to ship somebody a cake, each one of them we treat like a guest coming into our home. And so when you springboard off of that model, all of a sudden, they're not just customers, They are that put a pot of coffee on, and they're real, and they're coming from all different places. And it is amazing to me. Sometimes I feel like, what is it? You're most honest with your hairstylist or something like that. Sometimes people tell us things that are just amazing. And so I think that comes when you have an environment that says, we know you can go anywhere. We're happy you came here. And how can we serve you? Yeah.
Thank you. So Ray, do you run your business differently because it's a family business, or do all the same principles apply from business industry?
First of all, I'm not most honest with my hairstylist because it's my niece and she tells my wife everything, so that does not happen. So what was it? No, that's good. It's a very delicate dynamic between family business and professional business. You always want to have a professional business. You never want to lose that touch, that culture of family business. People like working for family businesses because of the caring, but they also like working for a professional business because of the structure. We run Isaac on really some principles that my dad transferred down to us, and these are hardcore, and they really are part and parcel to the organization, and this is what allows us to become an equity business, not a lifestyle business. And I can talk just a little bit, but those principles are, you get paid for what you do, not for who you are. So my brother's Dave is paid as a service technician. I'm paid as the president and CEO. Your last name is a responsibility, it's not a privilege. If you love what you do, you're never gonna work a day in your life. And ownership and employment are very different. One does not entitle the other. And we run Isaac like it's General Electric. We treat it as though it is an equity business. And an equity business, by definition, is where the ownership exists first and foremost for the benefit of the business. And I do presentations around the country to heating and air conditioning companies and other businesses, and we talk about this, and especially with family businesses, with 90-something% of really business being family business, you see a lot of knowing looks when I start talking about a lifestyle business, and that's the opposite of equity, where the business exists first and foremost for the benefit of the owners. And there's some telltale signs of lifestyle businesses. Everybody that has the last name of the company has two initials after their name, a V and a P. The business pays for everything. I think the word write-off was developed and invented by a family business because they write everything through the business. The private parking spots, the Cadillacs, BMWs, Mercedes, parked in that private parking spot because, God forbid, you have to walk more than 2 feet to get to the front door while your employees are having to walk around your Cadillac, and don't scratch it. We park at the end. My company vehicle is a pickup truck. My brother David's company vehicle is a red Isaac van. You exist as the owners for the benefit of the business. If the business is successful, then you're going to be successful. As I said, my brothers all work in the field. They all get paid for what they do, not for who they are. They get their reviews from other people. We really start hammering on that. And our whole philosophy, though, is it's only heating and air conditioning. I mean, for God's sakes, we're not creating world peace. We're not solving world hunger. We're not finding a cure for cancer. I mean, all those things are very important. We don't take ourselves too seriously. That was my dad's other one. Don't take yourself too seriously, son. Nobody else does. So I think he was talking to me personally. But, those principles of running a true professional business, but having those elements, those faith-based elements that Kip's talking about, and we also have as well as a family business. So these are the things that are going to keep you guided and straight. But never forget that your people come in every day, our associates come in every day, they want to have structure, but they want to know that there's a caring attitude and there's a philosophy behind that. But I tell you, the entitlement mentality, though, that is what's going to kill those generations of businesses, and that comes from that lifestyle mentality.
So
I could
John
talk
and-
for about 3 hours on that, but
That's
I'll...
okay. So John and Colleen, when you took over such a well-known bakery, did you feel pressure to keep everything the same? And how'd you respond to that?
We sure did. A lot of it. Yeah, we took that really seriously, and I think a lot of people expected potential changes. And what I felt like, we just paid a lot of money for something that was already working really well. We just wanted to see if we could grow it and do it better. So yeah, we were really, really careful to not just follow what was already in place, but to try and make it better and make sure that our inventories were moving, you know, that our service was improving, that our people were learning more, that we were just getting better. We didn't want to just get bigger. So yeah, we've had a lot of pressure. A cute story along the way I could share with you real quick about that is we have a product that's on the table called the Jillian's Delight. Daryl Bell could explain to you what they are if you want to talk to him after. It's an oatmeal cookie sandwich with our cream cheese frosting we put on our carrot cake. But the story behind that is there is a Jillian. She turned us on to the combination of oatmeal cookie with cream cheese frosting. My son Stephen, at the time, who was 12 at the time, thought we should sell them in the store and figure out a way to sell them. And my wife thought, now, poor Cheesy Eddie really shouldn't just introduce a new product like that without really, you know, some more
You
research or
can't
whatever.
just make stuff up.
Right. So I said, well, why not? We all love it. Well, if we like it so much, why wouldn't we try it? And we figured out and we made a sandwich out of it. And Matt Guerin, I think, can help us attest to that, big Jill. And yeah, and now, ironically enough, it's our best-selling individual item in the store. Not by volume, because they're so little, but by quantity, they are the best-selling item in the store, and they're a home run for us. So anyway, yes, we were very careful, and we still stay in our lane, but a lot of respect for that, and we continue to have that same respect.
Yeah, I would say we spent, I mean, it might be fair to say the first decade, but certainly the first 4 or 5 years as students of our staff and the people that were really running the business, baking the business. And so it became a constant, how soon can we begin to start saying, well, what if we? And it is hard. They knew the business really well, and we were just newcomers, so we were very respectful of that. At the same time, we were the new kids on the block that paid the bills, and so slowly but surely we began to introduce things. I think, did we decide whether the over-the-top or the sugar-free was the first line?
Go with sugar-free.
Sugar-free. Anyway, we did all kinds of testing because we wanted a product that was equal quality and yet was new to the table. And so slowly but surely, you can't stop him. He just wants to grow stuff. It's fun.
So Kip, you're the owner of the oldest family-run and operated company in Rochester. Think about that. The oldest family-run and operated company in Rochester. So there's quite a history and reputation that you have to uphold because the people you're serving, their parents and their grandparents bought from Palmer's, right, over the years.
Yeah.
So how do you honor the past while still moving the company forward?
I guess the first thing I would say is that the values have to remain intact. That's how you move your company forward, is you have to have the right foundation. We had an interesting experience last year. We went to our associates, and we spent an entire year doing it. We have quarterly all-company meetings, which are candidly kind of a marathon because we start at 5 o'clock in the morning with our drivers and we finish at 6 o'clock at night with our night crew. And we share our financials with our people. They know our budgets are bottom-up budgets. They're not top-down budgets, although top kind of looks at it sometimes and says, are you sandbagging me on the bottom here? But at the end of the day, we do bottom-up budgeting. And we share with our people every quarter as to how we're doing against our budget. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And they all share. We have tiers, profitability tiers, and depending on how we do as a company for 2018, and on top of everything else, they can earn four weeks of salary based on what our profitability is. So everybody's tied in. But I don't think that it's the money that motivates. I think it's the culture that motivates. And I think that trying to engage and, having our associates engaged, that holding our values close and talking to our folks constantly about values is really important. So this past year, one of the things that we did at those quarterly meetings is we started asking our associates, we said, what values do you think are the values that we should have as a company? And, what do we demonstrate or what do we aspire to be? What should those values be? And you'd be surprised at the different answers that you get. So we took all of that information, it took us an entire year to do this. And we went through and we synthesized all that information, and then we asked our folks to vote on the most important values, and we limited them to 10 values. Well, they actually picked out 11. 10 and 11, and we liked them, so we said, okay, we're going to have 11 now. But that was really a great opportunity for us as a company to really talk about what we thought was really important. And then and then during the course of the year, we did the values campaign of focusing on those values, taking one or two of them every couple of months, and putting it obviously in writing, but also in our huddles and in our communication opportunities, department meetings and everything else, talking about those values and asking our associates to talk about that and why that was important, and to recognize people in our organization that displayed those values. So the other thing I would say to you is that you really have to hire great people. I had for the first time in my life last year, I had the opportunity to meet Danny Wegman. I've never met him before. We've had kind of interesting parallels where obviously they're primarily on the retail side and preeminently successful, and we're just poor, humble food distributors on the other side. But it was wonderful because we had a chance, because we both had pretty strong dads, and we had an opportunity to talk to each other. It was a wonderful meeting. It was probably one of the highlights of my career. And I asked him to describe what is Wegmans all about. And I loved the answer. I wish it was mine, but I loved the answer. He said, we're in a human resource business that loves food. So I guess I hope Danny doesn't mind if I piggyback on that, but I think you have to hire fantastic people, and you have to treat them as you would want to be treated, and you have to give them an opportunity for growth. So how do you got to be entrepreneurial, Ray knows that, You have to take some risk. There's all those kinds of things, but really you have to have that foundation of great values and great people.
So we're going to shift over to some questions about the next generation and what that might look like. And I'm going to start with John and Colleen. You were the first in your generation to own your business. And so do you hope your kids will be interested in taking over? They're not here. I hope. You can be honest with us.
Where's their kids?
Honestly, I would like that if they loved the business and loved what we do. They have an enormous respect for what we do. They currently both have quite different paths, I would say. And I'm okay with that because I wouldn't want them to ever try and take this venture on if they weren't really passionate about it and excited to do it. So.
Okay. So Ray, you and your brothers are third generation. And what do you think is in store for fourth generation? Do you have a succession plan?
We're gonna. No, we have, I think there's 10 kids on the fourth generation for my brothers and I, and none of them are interested. My oldest is over at the other school in Rochester. It starts with an R. But he wants to be an oral surgeon. My little one wants to be a pilot. We have nurses, we have real estate brokers, we have chefs in the family, but none of them want to be in it. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that. When you force that and when there's not a passion, and again, my passion isn't heating and air conditioning. My passion is to improve the quality of life. That's my passion. That's our passion statement. I actually get up in front of our employees and tell them, look, I'm okay if you're not passionate about heating and air conditioning. This is a brand new, our boot camp that we run, which is a training and education program for new people. We got 15 people in there. I said, I'm okay if you're not passionate about heating and air conditioning, but you better be passionate about something. And if we have a fourth generation that isn't passionate about the business or about something in the business or about what the business can achieve for them in their passion, we're going to be part of that 96% failure rate. And I would not want that. I mean, our fourth generation could be the 400 or something employees that we have. They could be the next owners of the company. And I am okay with that. I have no qualms about that. Everybody kind of asks you, geez, you don't want that next generation. I said, not if they don't want to be there. As my dad says, you can do anything you want here. You just better have a passion and a purpose for it. So people get hung up on trying to carry on the legacy. What is the legacy? You know what? The legacy is the company and the people that are in it, the human resources, those associates that are there. That's the legacy. And what we do for the community and how we can improve people's quality of life. The legacy isn't having a fourth generation there just because it's Isaac. My brothers and I couldn't wait to get there. I went to school locally because I wanted to go to work in between classes, earn some money, and start really on my career early. But if that's not there for that fourth generation, my brothers, as I said, they all work in the field. They're all in mechanical or hands-on positions, and that's their passion, but that fourth generation doesn't have it, so, I mean, we're okay. I mean, people always look at it like somebody just died, and it's like, no, we're okay with that. I mean, I'm all right. I don't want them there if they don't want to be there. We'll figure it out. So nothing formal right now, but it'll pan out. And our employees know this. We've shared this with them. They're actually coming to us after my brothers and I just bought the business, and this is like April 27th. April 28th, I had a group of employees come in and say, hey, Ray, if the fourth generation isn't interested, don't do anything with it. I'm like, let us pay off the loan first, and then we can talk about that. But believe me, if you don't think that this is at the top of everybody's mind when they come in the morning, there's an old saying I learned long ago from actually a trained actor. He says, when you walk in the morning as the owner of your business or as the head of your business, there's one word or a phrase that you say to yourself, it's showtime. And people are looking at every single thing you do, every decision you make, every word you say and how you say it, how you carry yourself when you walk in the front door. That goes back to the equity versus lifestyle business. The mentality, when you come in, I mean, it's showtime. They're looking at you, and what you talk about and how you talk about it matters to everybody there.
Yeah. So, Kip,
All right, Bill.
Same question. It's amazing when you hear the statistic that Ray gave about the percentage of generation to generation as it goes. So here you have a fifth generation. Is there a sixth generation, and what does that look like at Palmer?
I don't know. We'll see.
We've been a lot of help up here.
Well, listen,
Good luck.
I echo what Ray says. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there is a difference between ownership and management. And we've been very clear in our family that just because you're an owner doesn't mean you're going to manage. We also echo the same things. I mean, we want our children to be happy. We want our children to feel good about themselves. We want them to contribute to society. We want them to be good people. That's more important than anything else. In life, the Bible talks about this. You can't worry about things. It's not going to add any time. It's not going to make any difference. Stop worrying about it. Okay, you got to let it go. Got to ask the Lord to help you. So what I would say is, as it relates to succession, is that we're doing everything that we should practically do to provide opportunities for the 600 people that we employ. And we're going to be good stewards of what God has given us. So we have an outside board now. We put an outside board in place, fiduciary board, not advisory, a fiduciary board. And we're going to prepare for the possibility that there may not be someone with the last name Palmer at the helm. And then we're going to leave it in the Lord's hands. And it's all going to work out. Because we have our associates' backs, and we have our clients' backs, and we care about everyone and all of our relationships. So it doesn't keep me up at night. I don't worry about it. I do pray about it. I'm not going to tell you I don't do that. Pray about it a lot. But I have faith. You know, I've had a wonderful life, guys. I mean, really, seriously, ladies, I've had a wonderful life. God has been very, very good to me. I graduated on a Saturday from Wittenberg University and started schlepping fish Monday morning.
You had Sunday off?
It was the Sabbath. You had Sunday off, too. I know it was 24 hours a day, but you probably had Sundays off. And, you know, we were working out of an alley in downtown Rochester, New York, in a facility that my grandfather purchased in 1919. And we had 20 full-time people and 10 part-time people. And we now employ 600 people in 2 locations.
Here we are.
All right? I think that one of the things that's interesting about succession, because when you start thinking about this, you start looking to the past to learn from the past, but at the same time, you have to operate in the present and kind of plan what the future might be without going overboard.
Yep.
And one of the reasons that I think we were able as a family to pass this business on for 4 generations before, 5 generations is because it was small. When my grandfather died in 1951, the business was valued at $6,000. It was small, okay? So today, it's a little different. It's not quite so small. So it's a little bit of a different thing, but God wouldn't have blessed us the way that He's blessed us to have a situation where, as we look to the future, we're not going to still continue to prosper if we do the right things and if we stay true to our values. So, succession will take care of itself.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to the last question that every panelist will have the opportunity to answer, and I just want to encourage you to use the hashtag because starting to see a few questions come in, and we'll go to that section shortly. So the last question is this. If pressed, what would be your top tip for someone who is looking to move up in their organization, either in a supervisory or an ownership position in their own career? What would be your best advice or tip for them?
Let you guys start first.
All right, I'll jump in. One is really tough, but and it seems simple or oversimplified, but the most valuable employees to us are people who act as owners, who care as much as, or nobody will probably ever care as much as I do about our business, but who care deeply about the people in the business and the success of the business and the customers of the business. So I'd say to have that heart that says, I really want to do this well, and it's not about me, it's about others.
I would also echo that, and but as business owners, we have a responsibility to invest in that. And so, it's kind of funny because this is our first year we're actually empty nesters, and I say, I raised my children and now I'm raising my staff because we have all these millennials that work for us, and it's so fun. At the same time, we have a responsibility. We are committed to being Jesus with skin on in our business. And so when I'm thinking about the succession, we're just a small business, so it might be a little easier to transition. But we're trying to raise up people who might desire to own the business someday if our children don't want to. And so probably somebody would come from inside our organization, but raised up by us. So I think it's really important to invest in them.
I guess I would say the first thing is just be yourself. God made you the way you are. Just be yourself. Operate with excellence. Do the best you possibly can. And lastly, in your heart, if you really love people, you'll be fantastic. If you really love people, if you really care about them, if it resonates with you, you can go any place you want to go. You can be anything you want to be.
Mine would be a kind of a summation of things I've said. Really knowing what your why is. I mean, you have to have a purpose. You have to, as my dad said, have a purpose and a passion for what you do and for why you're doing it. Practice those principles I talked about of the last name being the responsibility, not a privilege. And this isn't just family. I mean, this is everybody in the business. Something that is often overlooked and often combined with management, but leadership, practicing true good leadership. I'm a student of leadership. I'd love to be a great leader someday, and that's really one of my goals is to be a level 5 leader. Problem is, to be a level 5 leader, you have to be gone, and the place has to be more successful after you're gone, so that's the one true test. But in true leadership, that first element of true leadership is self-leadership and being comfortable in your own skin. There's so much anxiety out there. There's so much tension. There's people, and Kip and Colleen and John have thought about it, being okay, being comfortable with who you are, being okay with your weaknesses. Everybody's on guard. That's the beautiful thing about being a family, privately owned businesses. We're not beholden to some 24-year-old analyst fresh out of college and what his expectations are of what your financials should have looked like last quarter. Because 3 quarters in a row are stink. But you know what? We did pretty well. And being okay with being not perfect, and being okay with focusing on what Marcus Buckingham talks about in First Break All the Rules, focusing on your strengths, not your weaknesses, and really being, if you're going to be in that organization, that one, I think the true definition of leadership is a calming presence in an anxious environment. Being that calming presence, don't be the cause of anxiety. Sometimes I instill anxiety in the organization about financials or about getting a job done. That's good anxiety. But the anxiousness that exists and how it decreases our enjoyment and our lifespans, and managing that anxiety in your organization and being okay with not being perfect, and really having, as has been repeated a number of times, having that passion. And if you don't have the passion, find something else to do. I had my resume out there about 10 years ago. I was looking for a job, and I give a lot of credit to the person I met with who was a headhunter. He says, you know what, I can get you a job tomorrow, but what you want to achieve somewhere else, I think you might be able to achieve at Isaac. And that was a defining moment for me. So that was a clarity and a kind of an epiphany that came to me.
Thank you. So we have a few questions that have come in, and you can continue to tweet, and we'll try to get to some. I don't know that we'll get to all, but TJ sent in this tweet. When working with a family member at the same business, how do you avoid favoritism? Anyone?
I think that starts, and that starts actually from, in our business, it started with my dad. My dad basically said, you know, son, we have a relationship as father and son, and we have a relationship in business, and they're not the same. When you're in the business, we have to work together. And by the way, I'm the boss, but at the end of the day, we have to work together, and you know, it's not going to be any different. Everyone's going to be treated equally in the business. You'll be treated the same way that every other associate is treated in the business. And if you apply yourself and if you do the right things, eventually you may lead this business. But you have to do the right things, and I'm not going to show you I'm not going to show you any favoritism. It's not going to happen. So you have to, now, the great thing about a family business is you always have a lot to talk about. Sometimes the bad thing about a family business is that's about all you have to talk about, right? Because you're with each other a lot. So I think you have to have that demarcation. It's hard to do. It's not easy, but it can be done. I had it with my dad, okay? My brother and I worked together. We worked together fine, very well. He's in purchasing. He does a great job in purchasing. And we make it work. But he knows, and I know, that when it comes to the business is the business and personal is personal. Have there been times when it's not the easiest thing? You bet your life. Over the course of my career. But that's just the way it has to be. Nothing is ever perfect.
I have the opposite problem. I think sometimes our children, when they work in the business, they would say like, you don't treat everybody else. You expect more from me, so I don't think we have the favoritism issue.
It's called reverse nepotism.
Actually, I do have a favor issue because I do favor my wife, but as my partner, I get away with that pretty well, and that usually works out pretty good. But we do not agree on everything, that's for sure.
No.
That's for sure.
So I don't know who from Mary Carriola sent this in, but from their Twitter feed, it says, what advice can you offer us as leading a nonprofit while adhering to the values of our original founder, still balancing the needs of those you serve while engaging a newer age of employees, the next generation?
And again, I love working with nonprofits, but I love working with nonprofits that run it like a business.
Yeah.
I mean, nonprofit is a tax designation. You still have a passion and a purpose and a vision for that organization. And I love working with those where they focus on all the things that we focus on as a business. It's just in a different way. I mean, I want to make sure that we improve the quality of life. How is that any different from a not-for-profit? Whether they be in developmentally disabled services to individuals or children care or elder care, things like that. I mean, I love it when they run it like a business and they still practice. I think those are the best run charitable organizations because they're sustainable and they survive. I mean, to go out of business, whether it be a for-profit or not-for-profit, isn't good for anybody. So you hate it when a not-for-profit is in trouble and not able to succeed because it isn't a bottomless well where you can keep drawing water out of it. You have to apply the principles that you're hearing up here on running a not-for-profit. I think that they're very pertinent in that sector as well as in the for-profit sector. That's why I say I love working with the not-for-profit in his first board meeting and they're talking about the financials and the treasurer says, and our net profit last month. I'm like, yes, thank you. We're in one that kind of gets it. That's just my comfort area. I think it's good for everybody.
I would say, if I understand the question properly, I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, okay, we have now this Generation Z coming on. They haven't quite determined, though, in Generation Z what the time frame is. They're not exactly sure what the time frame is. I don't know that I necessarily agree with all the labels because I believe people are people. What's interesting is it related to Gen Y and Gen Z, millennials and Gen Z, that, believe it or not, they're so wired today that as it relates to their relationships, particularly their relationships at work, that they actually prefer a one-on-one, very personal conversation. They don't like, their life is full of cell phones and hashtags and God only knows what else. But as it relates, they're still human beings and they still have a desire to connect, and believe it or not, in the work setting, they actually prefer that mano-a-mano communication. So I guess my response is fill their emotional gas tanks whatever way you need to fill them, so that they're happy, okay? And when you need to make a withdrawal, there's something in the tank, okay? Because what do they talk about? They talk about the fact that you're supposed to compliment someone 13 times to every time that you say something that might not be a compliment. All right? I don't know that you can necessarily do that, but I think you try. But if you're looking for opportunities to bring recognition to associates, to engage them in your business, to help them be the best that they can be, and then you have to do some constructive things. If you filled their emotional gas tank and they trust you and they believe in you, then you can basically help them develop by really coaching them as you should. So fill their emotional gas tanks first.
So here's an interesting question, and I love how it's worded. Fernan says, I must ask the age-old question, are leaders made or born?
I think born, but I think you can really work towards acquiring. I think it's also can be looked at as a skill set. So, yeah. He is a natural born leader. And yet, that's not something that would jump out at you. But I have watched our entire relationship. People gravitate towards him, and they want to follow him, which is essentially, I mean, they want to be around and learn from him. That's a leader, somebody that can motivate and inspire people, and they don't even have to say much to do it.
You want to tackle it, Kip, or you want me to run it?
Go ahead.
I agree with you, Colleen. I think it's both. You have to have, I think there's certain personalities, and not everybody, I think, is going to be comfortable in a leadership position. And you have to have that comfort. And as I said before, you got to be comfortable in your own skin. That's the first step of great leadership, is self-leadership. Then those skills are fine-tuned and honed. However that happens, I read a great book, Forged in Crisis, and this was about the leadership lessons of Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, and I forgot, I think Collins was the woman who brought out the DEET issue, and there was one other one, Shackelford. And these were people that had never been in a leadership position, really, but they were forged by what their experiences were in life. So I think it's both. There are people that should not be in leadership positions. They're just not comfortable there. And again, that's okay. We have these fine, one-lane roads with guardrails on both sides that everybody thinks you have to follow along. I mean, an Indy track is 6 lanes wide and it's got guardrails on the inside and the outside. Hey, you figure it out in there. You can't be pigeonholed into some. We have individuals in our organization I never thought would have been a leader that have risen to the highest ranks in the organization.
Yes.
And they don't necessarily, if you were to say, okay, pick out a leader of this group, they wouldn't be the ones I think that you would pick out, but they've been forged in whatever their experiences were. So I do think it's both. I do think it's both. I think there are people that are born leaders. One of the changing moments in my life was losing my nephew about 6 years ago now. And I said at his eulogy, I said, I never thought there was a born leader. He was a born leader. At 18 years old, here's a kid that could walk in a room and everybody just went around him. I mean, and the good Lord took him way too early, but, he was one of those examples in life, those changing moments where you look at somebody like that and you say, there's a leader. There's a kid that would have, risen to great heights. But, so I think it's both. I really do. But you got to be comfortable.
It's kind of hard when you're a born leader because you can lead to good or not too good, but people are going to follow you. So that's kind of a hard thing if you're a natural born leader, but you're not looking to lead anybody. It just, yeah. And
Colin Powell said the true definition of a leader is when people want to follow you, even if it's out of morbid curiosity. They just want to see where you're going. So.
That's so true.
So this is going to be the last question, and I would like you in one word.
Oh boy.
I know, that's always challenging.
I'll go last.
In one word, what would summarize your leadership philosophy?
Go first, John. You know what yours is.
I think I do, actually. I think I do. I wasn't ready for that question, but if it has to be one word, I would say caring. Would probably be the word I would say.
What is it?
Caring?
Caring.
You just stole my word.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm going to go next.
Good.
You've heard me say it.
Good to go first.
Passion.
I thought you were going to say servant servant leadership. That's what I thought you were going to say. Let's see.
Blew it again.
Okay, I'll take that one then. Yeah, because we balance each other out. I think it's really important when you lead that you're always thoughtful of what's best for the other person. So he took my caring. But yeah.
Want to switch?
Okay.
That's a really tough question. You didn't give me that one in advance.
No, I just kind of made it up
wasn't
as
on
I
our
was
sheet
standing
here.
here.
No, it wasn't.
I guess I would have to say faith. Faith, okay? Faith in the future, faith in the people that you work for, that you work with. I would have to say faith.
I knew you were going to say that.
How'd you know?
I did too. That's why I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, your husband stole my first one, right? Now,
So think about that. One word, I mean, that's a hard question, and that was a kind of out of left field. They weren't expecting that. But one word that would describe leadership to you, which is really about how you would describe how you hope to lead, right? So so the 4 words that they gave us, I think are pretty inspiring: caring, passion, servant, faith. Think about that: caring, passion, servant, faith. And I hope today you walk out encouraged and inspired in your leadership as you lead others, as you do your work, to live out some of those exact values in your day-to-day work and what that looks like. I want to say thank you to our panel. I want to say, let's clap and give them a hand and thank them. And I want to say thank you to you for coming. Lisa Tiffin, who did a wonderful job organizing this event, reaching out to the panelists. I want to thank her for her work. And she is going to come and just close us out.
See? I got the clicker. So yes, thank you, all of our panelists, and also to Dina. What a great job leading us through this. I want to make sure, if we used your Twitter question, find Michelle Kronk. She's here. And I also want to just take a minute to thank Michelle. She takes care of every detail. If you enjoyed the breakfast, where you got to sit, how beautiful the room is, that's all Michelle. And we could not do this without her. And finally, I want to let you know that we do this breakfast, not exactly this breakfast, but this series, twice a year. And our next one will be in October. I'm cooking up a kind of cool topic. Watch your emails. You will all get an email notice about a month or two before it will be happening, but it will happen in October. So great. Thank you again, all of you, for coming. Have a great morning.